Okay? Tonight, you've heard from a single mom, you've heard from a married young father, and so we try to have a well-rounded conversation to show you how this podcast is going to go and what you can expect throughout the episodes that we'll post on our platforms. And so I wanted to have a conversation about blended families, about how sometimes mommy and daddy come from different situations, they come out of relationships, and God allows them to find each other, and they blend their families together, and they make it happen. They make it happen. And so what I wanted to do, I had a mom that came on and talked about her kids, and they were younger up until their teenage years. I had a father who has a 2-year-old daughter. I wanted some parents, a blended family that have raised kids, right, from a young age all the way up, to encourage every parent watching tonight that, one, you can make it. And these are some steps that you can take to get there and to have a healthy life, healthy relationship through all of that. And so this last segment that we're going to have, we're going to talk to Keysha and Terry Chester that are here tonight, and I'm so super excited. I've been waiting. Now, I love Tara, love it, but I've been waiting on this segment, right? Waiting on this segment because, like, I really want to talk in this segment because there are so many families that are blended together, right? And so in this segment, we're gonna take our time. We may go over a little time. It's okay, all right? Because I really want to speak to parents that are watching that find themselves in this state to where mom comes out of a situation, dad comes out of a situation, and in our generation, a little bit younger than me, they find there's a little tension there. You know, and there's that tension when a divorce happens, a separation happens, and then one person gets into another relationship, and Lord, don't let them get married, right? You know, and so somebody feeling the type of way, you have all of that. And so we gonna just talk. We're gonna just talk. Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you for having us.
All right. And so I want to start. Tell me your story. How did it start?
It is an interesting story. So we met as teenagers. I was in the military in Orlando, Florida. We dated for a couple of years. We said we were engaged. Then we got, she joined the military. We got transferred to different duty stations. And things happened. This was in the early 90s, right? So ain't no cell phones, ain't no email. You calling on a payphone.
You got a pager.
Right.
A beeper.
This was before beepers.
Ooh.
Yeah, before beepers.
This is 1990.
Yeah. So
Got you.
So we lost touch, and we each did our own separate thing, right? So I got married, she got in a relationship, and we each had a child. And then as life happens, wasn't where I should. I'm gonna speak about myself. I wasn't where I should have been in Christ, and ended up in a divorce. And in that situation, we found each other again. And then it was 8-9 years later, we met again and realized that we still had those same feelings for each other that we had back in 1990 when Belle Biv DeVoe was we was kicking it at the club. And so we decided to blend our families together.
Yeah, so at that point in time, we both had daughters, and they were about the same age. And then, so they were both 5. And so, and then we ended up having a daughter together as well. And so we call ourselves a super blended family. I brought one, he brought one, then we made one together.
Right, all girls.
All girls.
All right, hold on.
All girls.
Hold on. I'm praying for you.
Thank you, sir.
You know, I wanted to have an altar moment right now because
Amen. Let's go.
all the women. Oh my goodness. So how was that? How did that start? You guys, you meet, you blend your families. How was the beginning of that? 2 5-year-old girls,
Right.
both coming from your separate situations. What did that look like starting off?
So I'm going to go back to what you said in the intro. We just met today, but you were talking about us. God gave us grace for the mistakes
Yes,
and
sir.
the mess ups that we went through in our early part of our relationship. But when we joined our families together, they were 5 years old, and it was like sisters.
Wow.
And
Yeah, that was the easy part, is because they were
Okay.
so young, and then you bring a baby, and I'm like, hey,
Right.
we got somebody to play with.
Right, right.
And then so that I think that really helped. But I think another thing in regards to blending us with the outside parents, I think for Terry and I was we were always it wasn't always easy, but I think we tried to always be respectful and future driven. So I'm not saying that there wasn't any conflict, but I think that the parents, the father and the mother, I think for the most part they can pretty say like we did what we could.
Right.
We always honored them as much as possible. We don't have any, there were no knockdown, drag out fights, and we tried to compromise as much as possible. But I think for us, our desire was to keep our hands clean in regards to how we conducted ourselves.
So let's talk about that because I want to share a little bit of my story in this context. My dad was married before he met my mom, and I have 2 older sisters. And my little brother's deceased. He was killed in a car accident when I was 13. He was 9. So there were 4 of us. But the way I saw my dad handle the situation with my sister's mom was just amazing. It shows how Christian adults can be mature and handle situations in a godly way. To this day, I call my dad's first wife my Aunt Eula because she's like an aunt to me. We spent Christmases together. We love each other. There's never been any type of drama or arguments. So I love when you say that on how you made sure that you guys were loving the Lord, loving your kids, loving each other, and being open with communication, being adult and mature about the situation. And so let's rest right there real quick because, there's a lot of parents dealing with a lot of drama. Right? And they're dealing with a lot of issues. Sometimes it's from the other, sometimes it's from them. But how did you guys connect your hearts and your spirits to make sure that was never an issue with you guys?
And so it was tough at first. I'm 50 years old. I spent 30 plus years and probably the first 4 or 5 years in our marriage to realize that communication wasn't me flapping my gums.
Wow.
It took some prayer, some fasting, some resting in Jesus for us to realize that communication is about us seeking to understand and be understood.
Wow.
And, as a Christian, we have to realize that God cares about what we say and how we say it.
Yeah.
And so there's a training that we went to one time, and the speaker said, you can say the right thing and say it wrong, and you just completely ruined everything that you said.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and I think that overall, just trying to honor, because he was married before I wasn't. And then so honor the fact that it wasn't easy for his ex-wife to see us in a relationship together. And what I will say in regards to, I just want to commend him. There's one story that we had in regards to, because it was always about the kids as much as possible. So for my daughter, there was a season where she hadn't seen her father. I left her father when she was 11 months old, and we didn't see him until she was much older. But it was, my husband, we drove her to his house with his mother, and we sat in the house with them, and he didn't have to make that sacrifice, but she wanted to have this relationship with her father. So we had to put our feelings aside because we were the adults in the situation, and the children didn't ask to be here. So again, the maturity on our parts, and hopefully we modeled it as much as possible for our children so that they, as I like to say, you don't get to be legacy free, so what will your legacy be? So I do pray that we modeled it in such a way that if they find themselves in a situation, that they know how to conduct themselves as well.
That's mind-blowing because so many parents in our culture today take out their frustration with the other parent on the kid. You're not going to see him. I don't like her. I don't like that. All the bickering, right? But you said something like you respected him, and you guys respected the situation, and you made it happen for your child. And you mentioned earlier when we met that you're in education.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
And you work with kids all the time.
Yes, sir.
And so being a mom and being an educator, I'm gonna go left and come back right. I gotta dig in your brain, your education, but I have to because I want you to help somebody tonight. How important is honest communication with your kid?
Is super important.
Yeah.
One, I think at the end of the day, like because again, you don't get to not have a legacy just by. I mean, if they catch you in one lie, and I think that's what I can honestly say with my kids. You may not agree with everything that I said, but I think my children can honestly say they never caught us in a lie.
Yeah.
And then I think to take the time to, depending on the age of the child, to package it where it's age appropriate. But at the end of the day, we were never dishonest about anything. When her father wasn't ready to be there for her, and I think looking back on it, because we've been married 22 years now, my daughter's father died at a young age.
Wow.
And so to say, like, some of the things that he did, I don't think he did them maliciously. And then so as far as extending him grace, in regards to his ex-wife, extending her grace, because, as we're all traveling through this together, but honesty is definitely, the best policy.
Right.
Because you never want to get caught up in a lie anyway. Honesty with the children and honesty with the outside parents. Again, if it's tough medicine to go down,
Yeah.
but I do want to have the reputation that we always told the truth.
Awesome.
Yeah, and and she gave me props for that story about taking our daughter to see her father. But we have a similar story on my side, right?
Yeah.
So, my daughter, physical custody was with her mom for a while, but then things happened, and she ended up having to move with us for about 6 or 7 years. So we raised her from 5th grade all the way through senior. But when we went to pick her up in Virginia, my wife and I drove there, and my ex was getting evicted at the time. And so we actually put her stuff in our car.
Wow.
We took her to where she was going to be staying. We helped her move. And then at the end of the day, to our daughter, it was like, you're not here with us because your mother doesn't love you. You're here with us because we have an environment that you can flourish in, but she is still your mother.
Wow.
She still loves you. She's still there for you. And if you ever need her, we're never going to keep you from her.
That's so important. And how old was your daughter at that age?
11 or 12?
Yeah, something like that. She was 5th or 6th grade.
That formative age where she may not be able to verbalize it or even all the way remember, or maybe so, but to speak that into the life of a child, that healthy verbiage and the affirmation is so important, because we see so many parents spewing so much toxicity into their kids when life happens, right? Like you told a story that when you went there, you rolled up on life happening, right? And you didn't penalize her mom for that. You jumped into the situation and you were there for her. And I think so many times we have to remember that our kids don't ask for this.
Absolutely.
I think you said it
Not at
earlier.
all.
Like our kids don't ask for this, so it's up to us to be the adult. It's up to us to be the depiction of Christ in their life, to show them what grace looks like, and to show them so much love and care and support. And so with that, Dad, I gotta ask you, because you got these beautiful black women in your house, and I know that it gets tight and it gets tense. How do you handle conversations with grace? Because girls are different. Girls are different, and girls have to be talked to a little bit differently. They're fragile, and we have to care for them a little bit differently. How did that work for you?
Yeah, and so we're old school. Like I said, I'm 50 years old. I'm not going to tell you how old she is.
Mind your business.
and we were raised.
So smart. See, you so wise. So wise.
So we were raised in a generation where we just going to treat them all the same, right? Yeah, we treat them the same. They should grow up the same. They should turn out the same. And that is never what happens, right? And so we had to learn our kids' personality.
Yes, sir.
And we had to tailor our conversations to each child individually so that we got across that graceful message that we were trying to get across without bringing in something that was that would damage the conversation. So we have, if you go back and look at the 5 love languages, right? We have one child that is definitely words of affirmation.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And you have to package that conversation just right.
Yes. That's my son.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have another one who is physical touch, and she is all about. You could give it to her real and raw,
Yeah.
as long as she's doing this up
Wow.
under you. So you just have to learn your children and package it the way that is best received by them.
That's beautiful. You have to know each other. And I think Tara mentioned a little bit early in her segment about just knowing your children and packaging it right. How did you see that as they grew? So 5 years old, then they're teenagers, and now they're grown. I think you mentioned that they're adults now, right? Did it change? Did the love language change, or how did you approach situations? Because for some parents that have younger kids now, if God keeps us around here, they're going to grow up, right? And so how do we, parents of younger kids, how do we handle those transitions when my baby's not my baby no more, and they're growing up? How did you see that communication style change, or does it?
It's hard.
Yeah.
Because they grow up before your eyes, even
That's
even
what they tell me,
now.
girl. I ain't ready.
And you really, we don't get to see him as often as.
Yeah.
Where's the camera? Mama miss you. Come, call me. Come see me more often.
Yeah.
But yes, as they mature, you. I don't think their love language has necessarily changed as much. The middle one, her love language, once we began to understand it, still is words of affirmation.
Okay.
So even we still have to. I think the biggest thing in regards to the communication is what are we trying to accomplish?
Okay.
And so for her is if we have to deliver the news or whatever, even if we have to take a couple of minutes amongst ourselves and like, okay, now let's think about it.
Yeah.
No, we can't say it like that. But hers has been consistent. The youngest one has still been consistent. We don't see her often either, but if she comes over, she want to be on the couch and she want to be booed up and everything else.
But I will say, as she transitioned to those teenage years, it was more about it became more about friends than family, and so that physical touch kind of waned a little bit. It was still there. You know how teenagers are; they ain't got time for their mom and their daddy.
Right.
But when they did have time, it was still the same. So I would say that it didn't change, but the potency kind of diminished over time. And then we got back on the other side. It's all about seasons and phases.
It is.
Wow.
It changes and it ebbs and flows, and you just got to keep your eye on it and learn your children every day.
Yeah, and the oldest one, like I said, she kind of, her love language is, she's a mystery. So you gotta.
There's always one.
Yeah, you got to hit her with different ones, depending on how it works.
Depending on the
for her.
day, right? And so as we exit out of this conversation, and I'm loving it. I could talk to y'all all night. For real, I'm loving the wisdom and the love that you guys show, and you remind me of my parents. My dad is 77, my mom is 67, but the chemistry you guys have and the love I feel reminds me of my parents and how you guys vibe off of each other. I've been around married people before, right, and you can just always tell good chemistry, how you guys bounce out. You can tell that you communicate all the time. You guys talk. I could just tell. Just meeting you today, I can tell you guys talk all the time. With that. Communication. I know both of you probably have different communication styles, or maybe not, but explain how that has helped you guys raise your kids understanding each other's communication styles. Like how do you come at him? How do you come at her when it comes to the kids to communicate? Because you may feel a different way. And you may feel a different way about something than he does, and you may have felt something different than she does. How do you guys come to a common ground with your different communication styles to come to a decision?
So before we were married, we had a conversation and we said, these are the non-negotiables. We're not going to be calling each other out our names. We're not going to be cussing and fussing. We're not going to spend no nights outside of the house. You might want to sleep in the tub, but you ain't sleeping nowhere.
You're going to be in the house.
Right.
You'll be here.
And one thing that we pride ourselves on today is the fact that, we may go to bed angry. I know.
Yeah, it happens.
But and she is more cognizant of this than I am, but we're not going to leave the house that next morning without making a start on rectifying whatever the problem is.
That's beautiful.
So like I said, God created us unique. And in our uniqueness, we have those different communication styles. And so we have, she is more of a direct, let's confront the problem. I'm more of a, well, if you leave that thing alone, it might just go away kind of guy. But I've learned that does not work, and we just have to meet each other in the middle. And it is respectful conversation and 2 ears, 1 mouth.
Yeah.
Listen more than you talk, and you'll eventually come to a place where you understand each other better.
I love it. And that helps you, your communication with each other. My last question to you guys, because you lace your conversations and your interactions with love, how have you seen that mature in your adult children? Do you see them in their friendships or their relationships? Do you see yourself or your style in them because of how you modeled that for them?
I do to an extent, but I think the biggest thing that, and I'll let you come back to that. But we gave our testimony once at church, and we had our daughters to come and see our testimony. And I think the biggest thing for us, as far as a blended family, was to hear our daughters say. The youngest one said, you know, he's a force and she's a force, but dang on it, they are forced together.
Wow.
And then for my daughter to say, to know that she's always called him daddy. From day one, but to say that, you know, the love that she felt from him and the impact that it's made in her life, and I think we modeled our marriage in such a way that they want something similar to what we have.
Yes.
And I think that it was important for us. We stayed the course because we didn't want our children to suffer through another divorce.
Yes.
So we had to communicate and do what was necessary because we had a bigger vision for our marriage and also for our children.
I love it.
And for our daughters, they have not always, so to your question about how they model that in their life, they have not always chosen the guys that we would choose for them.
Right.
But what they do know is how a man is supposed to treat a woman.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
And they will come to the house and say, well, I don't know what he was doing, but I know my daddy wouldn't do that to my mama or wouldn't say that to my mama, and so I know that ain't it. And so what we have modeled has shown them what marriage is supposed to look like, and they can cut out all of that. Cut off that the nonsense before it gets to the point where it becomes that toxic relationship that you talked about earlier.
That's our prayer.
I love it. I'm gonna have to get y'all back.
And we
So the thread is just starting. So we're gonna have several more episodes, but I gotta get y'all back because this is a great conversation. Thank y'all so much for coming.
Thank you for
having us.
Yes, and so it's been a great night. It's been a great night with some great conversations, with great topics, and I'm just so excited about the potential of the thread. I'm so excited about where it's going and the potential that it has, because there is a need for parents and families to have a resource that they can go to, that they can glean from. Because as you heard from each conversation, and I'll say it again, y'all, sometimes, a lot of times, parenting just gets hard. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. They start growing up. They start demanding more. They take up all your time and your schedule. And it just gets hard sometimes. And you pray. It seems like sometimes the more you pray, the more frustrated you become, and the more tight and hard that it gets. And I get it. So the thread will be a resource for you. So how you can learn how to spend time and make quality time out of the time you spend. And we're just so excited because we believe that better parents build stronger families. That better parents build stronger families. And hopefully tonight just gave you a depiction on the conversations and stories that we will have for you on all of our platforms. You can go right now to iTunes. You can go to iTunes right now and subscribe to the thread, so every time we post a new episode, you get it. So go to iTunes right now and type in the thread Concord. It'll pop right up. Now, if you type in the thread, you're going to get a lot of threads, but it's only one thread, Concord. So you got to type that in, the thread Concord. It'll pop right up. And then we'll have our episodes on YouTube as well. And so subscribe to the Concord YouTube channel. Subscribe and click the notification bell so you know when everything comes. But then the resources that we will talk about, the articles that we will talk about, and I try to read books and read articles and get stats and all that good stuff, and I want to share it with you. You can go to concorddallas.org/the thread, and we have a resource page where you can go and get practical tips and practical help on how to just make this thing work, right? So we thank God for Pastor Carter and his vision for our house. And we thank God for every Concord family member. And I just want you to know that as you parent, understand that God has graced you and given you the capacity to be the best parent that you can be. So to the single mom, to the single father, to the married couple, to the divorced couple, to the blended family, wherever you find yourself, 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, 5, 6, 7, how many ever kids you have, parent, we got you. We got you, because we are here, and we want you to know that your parents, your kids will grow. They will grow, and they will experience different phases in their life, but we want you to be present for each and every one of them, and we're going to be right here for you. So once again, make sure you subscribe to The Thread on iTunes. Go right now, The Thread Concord. Subscribe to it. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notification bell so you can get every notification. But until the next time I see you, until the next time you hear from us here at The Thread, be blessed. Keep loving God. Keep loving people. Keep loving yourself. And love on your kids. Thank you so much for watching tonight. Peace.